was born in Paris in 1931. I was the baby of the family, and I was my father's favorite. On hot summer days, everyone in the neighborhood would sit out in the street on benches. The women would sit together, and the men would sit separately, talking and laughing. I would always sit on my father's lap. I felt a special part of my father's world, sitting there perched on his lap. He was a tailor, and he was a well-respected man. In 1941, I had to spend an extended time in the hospital. My parents came to visit on Sundays, but one day only my mother came. My mother was a beautiful and fashionable French woman, but this day she looked pale and wore no lipstick. She said my father could not come today. When I returned home, no one would speak to me about it. Everyone was whispering. I figured out from the newspapers that he had been arrested for being Jewish and sent to a French detention camp outside of Paris. 1 year later, he was taken to Auschwitz. He was murdered by the Germans 3 days after he got there. His name was Samuel, or Shmuel. In 1942, they started to arrest women and children. Maman made up her mind not to answer the door when they came. When they did come, they knocked again and again, louder and louder, but we hid in the back bedroom and didn't make a sound. We paid the underground to get us onto a train in the middle of the night to go to my uncle in the Free French area in the south of France. If you look closely at this picture, you can see we're wearing jackets with the yellow Star of David on them, and my mother's paper said Juif or Jew. Just as we crossed the demarcation line, police officers boarded our train and sent us to a detention camp near Spain. My uncle was able to get us out after several months. I was smuggled into Switzerland, where I was placed to work on a farm until the end of the war. I was 12 years old. The three of us survived, each in a different way. After the war, we all found each other again in Paris. But our apartment was occupied, and all our belongings were gone. We moved into an old attic and prepared to come to America. At that time, my mother found a lump in her breast and she died a few months before we could leave. Her name was Rose or Rachel. My sister and I got the proper paperwork and we sold everything to arrange visas and book passage to America. It was the summer of 1947 when we arrived in Denver. I was 15. Years have passed, and I have made a wonderful new life in Colorado with my husband Gene and our children and grandchildren. We all have dinner together on holidays, and I love to have lunch with my cousins, and then a rousing game of Scrabble.